Good evening and assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our Valanth League, race highlight videos. Starting off in qualifying for Spa, a track that we had done a lot of practice at, we felt really comfortable at, and we were super consistent during qualifying. I tried to get up 3 screens side by side to show that consistency, but sadly it meant that the video would be really juddery. As you can see, our best time is currently a 43.9. We did a 44 dead in Q2. So I'll just run you through a hot lap that I did. Try to get a lovely run and hope that the guy in your call, aka Byron, doesn't hit you coming out of the final corner. So I think that might have cost us maybe half a tenth, but not too much. Just after the 100-meter board, drop it down into first gear temporarily before quickly short shifting up to second. We get a bit of a squirmy moment with the rear end, but straight back on the power. And now for Eau Rouge. Easy flat. Use as much curb as you can on the entry and straighten up your line as you go through Radion. And as you can see, we're going between the green and the red. We're right there on the pace. Turn one wasn't great, but use all of that curb on the entry into the chicane. We got a bit squirmy and we had to just open up the steering so we didn't cut the corner. Use as much curb through the right hander. Now, this is one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. After the curb begins, brake down into second gear, go for that double apex. Short shift up into third, bit of a squirmy moment. Use as much curb on the entry, drop it down into a fourth, and take all of the curb on the apex. And now for Podium, quick shift down into sixth, just tap that curb on the entry, and then up into seventh gear, flat out through the second part. And now, drop it down into fourth gear. We decide to hold it in fifth, just to hold a bit more momentum, because it just felt like a really nice entry. Quick correction for oversteer, and now we drop it down into fourth. Quick shift down into third, just to get that front end to bite in. Use all of the track as you make your way through the right-hander. Perfectly flat. And now we make our way up to Blanchimont. As you can see, we're 600ths up, and all we need was about 500ths to pip Flyer for pole. And this is my first ever, we're on for our first ever front row. So just after the 100-meter ball, break down into second gear, but we have a moment, somehow we catch it. Down into first gear, back up. We get an okay exit and across the line to beat Flyer. Yes! And you can hear my jubilation, but now we have to wait to see what Flyer can do, because he's on his final lap with 300ths ahead of him, and this will determine whether we get our first ever Valanth League pole or not. Neither of us got any toes on our lap, so it's fairly even in that sense. Flyer will come across the line and he will pip us. He found another 2/10, but that's that. Second place by an absolute mile ahead of everyone else. So we have a lot of confidence, a lot of pace heading into the race, and on par for our best ever result, and it should be a good one. Well, so heading into the race, let's take a quick look at the setup. We go 4-6 on the wings, and then 50-70 with that differential, and you can see everything else. We turn up our brake pressure just because the track's going to dry up, and we knock the front brake bias a little bit forward, as well as changing the tire pressures, just so that, because you want more tire pressure for when it's dry. So that was a wet setup that we're adjusting to the dry, rather than a dry setup that we're adjusting to the wet. Added a bit of fuel in, and we actually changed our aeros to 4.7 just because it looked like there was a lot of rain incoming. We've kind of learned our lessons from Hungary. I didn't upload that video just because I got very tilted, and it was a race that we should have come second in, but I messed up because I pitted too early on the crossover from inters to dries, and it really wrecked my race. So I didn't want to do that. I put lots of practice in, and at the end of the formation lap, we're ready. We're setting our fuel and ERS to the right amount. We want our fuel on lean and our ERS on high for that race start. And as always, I'm nervous, and I just want to make sure everything's clean. That start is going to be so important. We know how weak we are off the starts, just in general against everyone. So it's so important to get it right. And I know I just need to wait for Jeff to tell me when to switch my tires instead of deciding myself, as I give myself a little bit of prep talk, as I am streaming at the time as well. If you guys do want to tune in while I do these races live, make sure to hit me up on Twitch, Milky Cereal 1. But we're on the lines, and now we just wait for the red lights. We want to get our revs up to 12,000 for the dry, so I wanted to keep it a little bit under, but it's a decent amount, and we get an okay getaway. But take a look at Cradden. He already turns up, and we end up colliding, and that really forces us back. Someone's taking a look down the inside of us. It's one of the Mercs, but we're able to get away. Okay, as we have another slap of oversteer. Now, Brandon is right alongside us. We say, come on, do you want to go side by side with us through a rouge? Come on then. And he decides to back out. But now, you know, we're far back from Brandon. But on lap 4, we started to find our pace and started to close back in. And actually, Cradden was doing a really good job. But he lifts off weirdly through Blanchimont a lot. And that allows us to get very close. And he's really early on the brakes, which catches me out, and we massively lock up to try to avoid hitting him. We give him a bit of a tap, but he did say afterwards that he didn't feel that, so that's all good. But next lap, we know what we want to do. We know what's going to happen, and I get a little bit excited here. When... Oh, he's making mistakes. He's under pressure. You can feel it. I'm coming, Cradden. Send my energy. So yeah, I spotted Cradden making a little mistake, so that just gave me a little bit of extra motivation. And later that lap, heading into Blanchimont, I can see Cradden right in front of me. I know what's going to happen, and I let the car run a bit wide, and now I'm alongside, heading into the chicane. And that's us up into second place, and now we can focus on catching up to Flyer, because it does feel like we have a good pace, and we can really try to hunt down the Red Bull man on lap 6. Our pace feels good, so we should be able to close in onto Flyer by a bit. But back at Hungary, there was a certain backmarker called Impress who screwed my race over somewhat. This time it was on Flyer. As you can see, there's someone who spun. Flyer ended up losing part of his front wing on Impress there, who had spun, which is exactly what happened to me at Hungary. Literally practically identical, but I probably could have done more about the incident than Flyer could. And you can see we're already purple in Sector 1, and well, the front wing damage did affect Flyer somewhat, but now I just wanted to focus, try to catch up to Flyer as much as possible. And you can see that Cradden's still in third. We're starting to pull away, and Byron down in fourth. Usually, apparently, I've been told he's not very good in the wet, but he's proving people wrong at the moment. As you can see, we're just running lean low. This is all that we were doing in the first stages of the race. Not pushing at all. Just keeping that ERS and fuel down so that we could save up as much fuel as possible for when it dried out. I did expect the sun to come out a little bit later, but at this point I thought, wow, look, I'm so quick. I'm catching up to Flyer so fast. And I didn't realize he actually had front wing damage, which does explain a lot more. And it's unfortunate that it kind of came down to this, but with the track starting to dry up, I was considering switching over to softs, but I knew, wait for Jeff to tell me when the crossover point is, wait to find out about the DRS. Now, we're right on the back of Flyer, and we lift out, we're just waiting for something, and Flyer really lifts off, and again, I didn't know that he was missing part of his front wing, so I didn't go for it, and I was thinking of having a dive into the chicane, but decided against it. Flyer dives into the pits, and, well, I don't dive into the pits because I was waiting for the DRS to be enabled. At the time, I did think that I had made a big mistake by not pitting when everyone else had. As you can see, I lock up, I run wide. I lose the back end here, and you can hear me just be a bit frustrated. I've done the opposite of last time. So, yeah, I thought I had wrecked my race here because in Hungary I pitted like 2 laps too early onto dries and I lost so much time. And now here it felt like I was going to pit 1 lap too late and lose a bunch of time as well. There are a few drivers staying out on inters. You can see Charmander Nerd, aka Alex, and Travis in third. They're still on the inters. I think Travesty started towards the back because he couldn't make qualifying. I even said if Flyer pits, I pit. Yes. As you can hear, me just getting a little bit frustrated, but I knew that I just need to nurse it around. The one thing that was giving me hope was the fact that when you look at my tyre temps, they're at the high 80s, mid to high 80s. And that means that they haven't overheated just yet, so the inters are still okay. So I thought, okay, even if I lose some time, I won't lose that much, and hopefully I should still come out ahead of Cradden, even if I am behind Fly, and then we can have a good old ding-dong battle to the end of the race in those dry conditions. As all the practices I've done had rain coming in the last lap or two, but it wasn't enough to switch over to those dry tyres. But as you can see now, our carcass temperature starting to rise. We're still in lean low ERS, and there's a DNS enable sign, so it kind of gave me hope, because I thought, oh, if the if the DRS is being enabled now, then maybe I have pitted at the right time, they pitted at the wrong time, we run a bit wide and we get an exceed track limits warning. That was actually our second of the race. Nice and early on the brakes, because it is dry and it's so easy to lock up. As you can see, we've switched our front downforce to 2. It was at 4, we were running 4.7, now we'd be on 2.7. Slow it right down for that pit lane. Don't want to get no nasty 5-second penalties. And that's Cali up ahead, who's actually fitted on some dry tyres as well. Now, at this time I saw the Red Bull coming through, and in my head that was Flyer. But I now know it wasn't, and then I saw Hodgson coming. I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to come out right in between Flyer and Cradden. And then I realized, wait, hang on a second, that's Hodgson. So I thought something weird had happened, and Flyer was in the lead. And here Travis has a bit of a oopsie daisy moment through Eau Rouge, and it now clicks that I'm actually leading. Yeah. So I now realize I'm leading, and now I'm wondering what the hell happened to Flyer. Now, nothing happened throughout the rest of the race. I was in first, medium tires. I just did my thing. And you can see the gap that we currently have to Cradden and Flyer, who are second and third. I think there was some incident back behind. 14 seconds. But the rain's starting to come down, and I thought, I knew that it'd be time to change to inters, but I wasn't sure when. And now, after I go past the pit lane, Jeff decides to give me some useful information. So now Jeff tells me that I should pit for inters. Like 25. But anyway, the following lap, I decided to come in. Jeff telling me that late meant that everyone else had pitted. And now you can see from that 14-second gap I had, Flyer is just 4 seconds behind. I tried to nurse the car around those final couple of laps, and you can see Flyer's caught right up to me. I was not pushing. There was probably more in the car. There was definitely more in the car that I could have given. But I was just thinking, okay, don't mess anything up, Milky. Don't mess anything up. And with just 2 corners remaining, we are on target to get our first ever Valanth League win through the final corner. And I'll let you enjoy this moment. On our first ever VL win. Let's fucking go, boys. Yes! So yeah, again, really happy moment for me, and there you go, Williams on the top step. I don't think that's actually happened in the Valanth League before, but our best ever qualifying result and our best ever race result, second and first. There were issues that happened to Flyer. He lost his front wing and there was an incident later on, but well, I mean, we'll take it. We had more pace. We could have pushed more. Even when I was on the mediums, I had a 10-second gap to the guy behind. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to push. I'm going to take it fairly easy. But one thing that I do want to show you guys is the kind of consistency that we had when we head over to Race Director. So on the inters, 0.8, 0.5, 0.4, 0.8, 0.6. And then when we go on to the mediums, 9.8, 9.7, 9.7, 9.4, 9.2, 9.5, 9.0. And then the rain started to come down. So we had a lot of consistency. Sadly, we didn't get driver of the day. That went over to Capiro. But yeah, I'm just massively chuffed to bits with that. Really happy. So yeah, thank you guys for watching all of this. That was our first ever win in Valanth League. We'll be back next week for mods. I won't be taking part in qualifying, sadly, so it'll be a bit of a back to first challenge. Make sure to hit me up with a follow on Twitch, Milky Serial 1, if you want to watch that live, or just hit us up with a subscription here on YouTube. But thank you guys very much for watching, and until next time, stay milky, and assalamu alaikum.